All right. The crack of the bat, the exhilaration of hearing an announcer screaming that runner is stealing second, the bliss of hearing that the Giants win the pennant, the Giants win the pennant. These are just a few of the things that make baseball just the greatest game in the world. I'm a huge baseball fan, so if you, like me, are a fan of baseball lore, then you'll probably recognize the broadcast I just imitated. When the San Francisco Giants, won the pennant in 1951, Russ Hodges announced it over the radio, and almost the whole country heard him because baseball used to be a great pastime in America, something that brought us as Americans together. We need that back. It needs to be popularized again, and that bond that we had needs to be reestablished. Today, I'm first going to tell you about the golden age of baseball, when baseball was celebrated throughout the country. Secondly, I'm going to tell you about the decline in popularity that baseball is currently going through. And last, I'm going to tell you why we need to bring baseball back as our pastime. First, let's discuss the time period that we as a society should have never let go, the golden age of baseball. When radio was invented in the first half of the century, baseball was the only sport broadcast, and so, for that reason, its popularity skyrocketed. On nights when their team's baseball game was on, families would huddle around their radio, and they would listen to the game together, and it would make them closer. It would build a bond. Nowadays, baseball isn't quite as popular as it was, and that brings me to my second point, the depopularization of baseball. These days, football is the most popular sport. According to a survey conducted by Harris Interactive that I found on usatoday.com, 3 out of 10 fans, sports fans, prefer football to any other sport. Baseball comes in at 17%. And then we've got these other sports, pro basketball, college football, hockey, spreading out the continuum even more. And this is an epidemic. And more than that, it's just a shame. We had something that we as Americans loved, and we need that back. It used to be that people could listen to a baseball game, and the next day when they went into work or school, they could talk to their friends and co-workers and say, hey, did you hear the game last night? And the answer would most likely be yes. It was a conversation point, something that brought us together as community members. I've heard stories from my dad that when he was back in school and baseball was popular, during the World Series of Baseball, classes would be canceled. The students still had to go into school, but they would just wheel a TV into the classroom and play the World Series game. And they would listen to it together. As classmates, it would bring them closer. Nowadays, we don't have anything like that. We need that back. In fact, the most popular sport currently, football, isn't even broadcast over the radio, so it's a lot harder to watch it. My third point, why does baseball need to be brought back exactly? Well, some of you may be familiar with the crazy Robin Williams comedy, RV. In the movie, Robin's character has a monologue that I think perfectly illustrates my point. He says, 50 years ago, if you walked down any street in America on a warm Monday night, you would hear the sounds of I Love Lucy coming out of every window. And I'm not speaking about conformity. I'm talking about, isn't it great when America falls in love with something together? We used to have that love, and I believe we don't have it anymore. We need it back. So now you may be asking, well, why does baseball need to be this kind of theme? How about football? Well, I believe that the main reason football is more popular is because today's society is more driven towards instant gratification in hyper-violent sports like football. And a lot of people who are not fans of baseball say that baseball is too slow and the rules are too complicated. And admittedly, baseball is a bit slower than most sports. The rules are a bit more complicated. But if you can get over the relatively steep learning curve of baseball and learn to truly appreciate it, it will be the most fulfilling sport you watch. Believe me, I've seen them all, and baseball is by far number one for me. So, during the Golden Age, as you've heard, baseball found a way into hearts of Americans far and wide. Since then, it's decreased in popularity. However, I think this is a national issue. It needs to be changed. We need a common thread. So this October, when the playoffs roll around, just a few weeks actually, I suggest that all of you pick a team and tune into one of their games and watch it. And actually watch it. Don't be listening to music or talking to your friends. I think you'll remember the exhilaration, the pulse of the crowd, the ball flying through the air, and the crack of the bat.